back on the air, but this time we're going to do it through a new technical way of working things. We're going to do a podcast here at the University of Waterloo Faculty of Health, and we're going to be interviewing many people. We're going to be hearing Indigenous music and hearing up-to-dates on issues and events that are happening within the Indigenous world. So this is kind of the start of a brand new technical way of bringing Niche Vibes to you. It's an honor to be a part of this, as we've done so for probably 10 years in the past, but now we're going into this new version of Niche Vibes, and I'm really happy to bring this show to you and have a chance to interview, learn people that are at the University of Waterloo, the events that are happening here, and the many good things that have been taking place over the last couple years. So this is a good chance for us to explore and to be a part of a world that I think involves Indigenous people from a very high executive level at the university all the way through this whole institution, through the faculty and through the students and through the staff that work here. So this is a way of building a relationship and hoping we are able to build a new platform for us going forward. So I'm really happy to join you once again to be a part of Niche Vibes. Bujo, Maingan and Dejnikas, Deshkan Zibi and Donjiba, Maingan Dodem. This is our first show, and we're very excited to have a very special guest on Niche Vibes today. And a friend that you might know, he's very well known here at the university and been working really hard to bring Indigenous perspectives to the university. And he brings a background that consists of knowledge from various elders throughout Canada. He's been able to find a path that he's been very comfortable with in building his own spiritual knowledge, educational knowledge, and being able to help other people learn their path. And so today we're honored to bring Kevin George into our first Niche Vibes interview. Welcome, Kevin.
Miigwech. So glad to be a part of this first interview here. For all the listeners, I guess I'll introduce myself. Kevin George Indigenous, Ajodina Ndonjaba, Gigun Dodem, Barwadami, Ndao, Nia Nihiao. I had to throw that in the end there because on my mom's side I'm Cree. So on my father's side I'm Bodewadmi, and I like to honor both sides of the family. That's who I am. I also work here at the university in the Office of Indigenous Relations, and I couldn't be happier to be a part of this podcast. So Chi Miigwech, Anishna.
All's well. Over the time that I've been here, I think you were one of the first people that I was introduced to, and we right away started building platforms for the university. One of them was the commitment ceremony that the university has now entered into. And I think when we discovered, that this university had put on their value list a place for Indigenous people, and I think when I got a chance to meet you, we connected quite well. We kind of come from similar backgrounds in terms of our spiritual experiences. But I think working at the university, we were able to work together on helping the university learn what these ceremonies are about, how important they are, and having the people come and participate in that. So I appreciate that, when I first got here working with you. And I think it's been a good relationship. And I think we have a lot of work to do still, though. I think there's a lot of opportunity now for this university to look at Indigenous perspectives, cultural events, and changes to the atmosphere here. When it comes to another one of your skills is Indigenous art. So this is kind of another part of the new beginning that we're hoping to achieve here. So maybe we'll start by, you talked a little bit about who you are and where you come from, and maybe your vision, of things to come in, not necessarily just at the university, but your life and how you feel, your balance, your family, the things that you've accomplished so far and things you still want to accomplish. Maybe give us a little insight to that.
We'll start with that. That's a lot. No, going back to what you said about commitment ceremony and the work we do here, I like that it's calling for action from the university. But one of the favorite things I've been doing, and you've spearheaded much of them, are cultural teachings, like in truth and reconciliation work. For me, the truth needs to come, and there's a couple sides to that. One is educating, non-Indigenous folks about history and things that have occurred and things they might not know. But the other side is like our truth. Reconnecting with our identities, reclaiming our languages and culture, and I think that's really, really important work. I have this kind of theory that at the root of a lot of the problems, like the MMIWG 2S crisis and things, that it stems from Indigenous people being dehumanized from the beginning. And that's really important for me to rehumanize. And that's why I really value having all these cultural teachings and showing people the beauty. That's, for me, equally or more important than showing people the things that horrifically happened in our history. For every negative thing that we say, I like to try to bring something positive to balance it out. Because the intent of this work is not to have people feeling guilty or traumatized or ashamed. And it's certainly not to make non-Indigenous folks feel uncomfortable that now we have to do more work patting them on the back saying, I'm sorry you're feeling uncomfortable, because that's not what we need to do. So by involving both of these aspects, the real history, but then showing the beauty, for me, that's really, really important.
It's really important, especially at a time of reconciliation in a country that said that this is what they want. And I think an opportunity for us at an educational level to provide this next generation with knowledge that most generations before us never had. So I think with us being here, I think it gives us a chance to explore new avenues of teaching, not only to students, but staff, presidents, and everybody who works here at the university. So I think they might not always look at us, I guess, from a colonial vision, right? Maybe they're trying to see beyond that. And we're trying to invent a way for them to see how we align with achieving our goals through a non-colonial lens. And I don't know, I think when I've worked with you, maybe you've ran into a few challenges, but I think for the most part, they've been pretty receptive to bringing cedar in and smudging, within the buildings and, having speakers come in, and doing the things that you do. Because I think you started off as one of the event coordinators here that was putting everything together and building a place for these events to happen. But I think you've outgrown that already, I think because now you're actually helping do pipe ceremonies and taking care of fires and doing other things that's important for us to do. So this is, do you see it in that same manner? Like how your role has changed or how it started to grow to a different form of what you were hired for?
Yeah, definitely. So when I started about a year and a half ago, it was just Jean Becker and Robin Stelbauer who had really done this tremendous job establishing the Office of Indigenous Relations. And so when I began, there was a lot of work to be done. All three of us were wearing all these hats and just working frantically. At that time, I was doing social media, websites, event planning, all these other kind of things too. But fortunately, as you mentioned, the university's been so supportive. They really haven't told us no yet. So we're just going to keep asking if we can do Indigenous things, and we've had tremendous support. And part of that support has been the growth of the office. So we've got a bunch of new people in now, got a new coordinator, we've got a new director, Melissa Ireland. We've got a really, really strong team. And it's starting to be now that we can kind of focus on our strengths. So while I'm not overwhelmed and wearing all these hats, the folks in my office have also been supportive of nurturing everybody's individual gifts. So it's hey, which person would be best for this and which direction do they see you going? And, Jean and Robin have been both so supportive and sat with me and said, well, what do you want to do? Where would you do the best work? So now I have been shifting a little bit and doing community engagement and getting out, visiting different communities, different events, conferences, and just building connections, because I think that's a huge key part of indigenization, is connecting with not just us here at the university, but in the community. We can't do things in silos. We have to do things in community. We have to honor this place where we're at on the Haldeman track. A lot of my work now has been able to reach out and build some real good foundations and relationships. So I look forward to doing a lot more of that. And I also look forward to strengthening the relationships across the university, understanding what the different faculty members are doing, what the staff needs are, what the students would like to see, because ultimately we're here for them. But there's a whole growing and beautiful Indigenous community here, and one of the things I'd really like to focus on is making sure that we all feel connected.
Well, you said a key word of a growing Indigenous population here, but we all know that our population still is quite small compared to the university. I think there's about 40,000 students at the university now or more, but very few are Indigenous, or at least have identified as Indigenous. I think that's probably an avenue where we'd like to create, not at the university, but maybe even at the high school level, avenues for them to be able to come to university. There's value in all education. Colleges, people can get into colleges quite easy, but university is just a little bit higher education. So to qualify for that step into this type of education is going to take a little bit more commitment from us to ensure students are able to do this or have the confidence to do it. So I think, I don't know if you're seeing things the way I do, but reaching into our Indigenous communities and helping them find a path that'll lead us here. And that's going to powwows, that's going to the communities, that's going to the schools, their graduations, and letting them know who we are. That way, at least when they do look at this possibility, they'll have a face that they can recognize. So I don't know if that's how you see it or not, but I think this is something, because we both have kids who are at that level. And if we can use that experience to say what inspires them to do what they want to do, let's put this on their radar so that they can at least think about it. Do you see it that way?
Yeah, I see it as definitely a multifaceted approach that needs to happen. Right now, we have some great work happening with Alex Degagne, the recruitment specialist. He's out there connecting with folks and showing them what there is once they get here. And we're also building right now with you something for them to find when they get here. But you were mentioning obstacles and pathways, and that is something that needs some work. I realize that in our capacity, we can only do so much, but that's where I feel like building those connections with community organizations, with First Nations, with high school counselors. There's like so many ways that we can start getting involved a little bit earlier. I've talked to lots of folks, and, you know, myself included, who got to this level and realized that they weren't prepared. They hadn't taken the courses. They haven't been prepared at all in their path to really access being here. I mean, that's just the start. That's not even mentioning the difficulty it is to find affordable living around here. A lot of Indigenous students we talk to are mature students with children. We need to connect with community in all levels to really realize like a wholesome experience here for Indigenous folks.
Totally agree with that. You know, there's some work to do. Even though we have a good foundation and starting point, you know, we have to look at the future and the opportunities to come. We do know that as we began this process, some of them aren't very young. You know, we're not going to be around a long time. So we have to start recruiting people that can do the things that I think, you know, ceremonially, you know, I know there's educated Indigenous people out there that can do administration work. But I think the difference with us is that component, the ceremonies that try to merge that into an educational system, and to find that on a resume with somebody is really, really difficult because you have to have that life experience to do those things and pull that together. I think the team that you mentioned, it's a great start, stronger future, you know, if we can kind of keep that rolling. But, you know, our job is to not just necessarily get them through high school with academic opportunities, but to have an Indigenous frame of spirituality, of knowledge, language, and ceremony. And then they become holistic when they come here, and they're probably more confident and probably even more successful in that manner. That's kind of like what I see. We're going to go into another part of the show. We're going to do a song, and this is what we do here. We're going to introduce a few different songs over the time. It's all not just about interviews, but like I said earlier, it'll be songs and current events that are happening with Indigenous people. So we're going to take a little pause and play some music for you at this time. I hope you enjoy this song. welcome back. You're listening to Niche Vibes by podcast. First time, as I mentioned earlier, we've been able to come to you in this platform, and it's so far so good. I know we just started, but we have a great guest for our initial show. Kevin George is here, and we've been able to talk about various things at the university. And I'm looking forward to being able to interview other people at the university, let you know what's happening here. And I think one of the important parts of the podcast is because I'm rather new here too, and I'm learning the university. This will give me a chance to find out what people are doing here, what I'm doing here, and then we can kind of change, have an introduction to each other. I think the podcasts are really about bringing knowledge to people, but knowing what we're doing too. And that's why we're doing this. I really appreciate this type of platform because it's something that I've done for a number of years at the University of Windsor and Conestoga College, but now at the University of Waterloo, being able to continue on with doing somewhat of a radio show, which I've done before. So I'm really happy that we're able to bring this to you and the music that you get to hear. So we're going to go back in to talk to Kevin again, and we're going to see where our future lies in opportunities for us to grow. It's really hard to believe that we've done all the stuff that we've done in the last year. What we've done, I think, to this point, universities across Canada haven't even got there yet. When I think about other universities, and I appreciate what they do, some of them have various forms of Indigenous perspectives there, but what we've done in the last year has opened the eyes up to other educational institutes, offering the free tuition to people in our traditional territory. But what we did, I think, even more, in my view, encouraging is when we went to do some smudging at Deshkanzibi a couple weeks ago. We know that there's a residential school that they're starting to locate, I guess, around the grounds. They're testing, and we don't know what they're going to find. What we thought would be important is before we started that investigation to bring people who went to that school, and many people from your First Nation, Kettle Point, had attended the Mount Elgin Residential School. And we also brought Clarence Kakaji, who's from Chapleau First Nation, where children from there also attended this school. And from Oneida, we had Clifford Summers, who came, and we all did pipe ceremony at this event. And I never really got a chance to talk to you after that. Maybe you can tell me what you thought about it, or maybe your feelings about what we did when we went there that day.
Okay, Miigwech. Yeah, I did want to talk about that a bit, but first I wanted to let folks listening know there's a Cheech and Chong Hot Wheels car that came out in like 1978, and they got this fluff in it. It looks like smoke pouring out of this old jalopy, and so I tagged Maingan on Facebook. I said, hey, Cheech, remember that time we smudged the whole reserve? Because during that pipe ceremony, we went to the four corners of Deshkanzibi, and we had pipe carriers simultaneously at all the points, and we rotated. And when we drove from point to point to each corner, Maingan had us holding these huge smudge bowls, and we just had our windows cranked, and there was just sage pouring out of the windows. And so we got that done. And that was awesome. But then we all met back in the center, and then it got kind of solemn. We all did pipe ceremony. The whole community was there. There was some good song keepers playing some drums for us. It was just really good. And when we were there, something happened there. I remember, I'm glad I went there with you, Maingan, because that's the first time I had been there to that monument, even though my Nooka, Madeline, George had gone there, and many of my relatives really. But I wanted to go there and really put things in perspective. And I was thinking, you think of everything at once. You think, about your relationship with your father and how his must have been with his mother and the residential school and all that. When we went there, you showed me about what it meant. You said there was actual bricks at that monument from the school, and they physically get less and less as you go up the path, and that kind of represents like, we're going to move on from that pain. Another thing you said that resonated with me was like, look at these giant old trees and the things they might have seen. So I took some time and I went to each of the trees around there, and I left some sema down there at the bottom. I touched them, and I don't know if that helped, but I had an experience that day when we were doing pipe ceremony, and it was, this is going to sound funny, but it's not. It's for real. It's the first time I felt like a little girl, literally. It's very hard to describe. Like, it wasn't empathy in the sense where I relate to people and I can really understand how you feel because I kind of been there. This was like a real feeling of like I was that little girl. So we smoked pipe and we sent prayers, and I saw and felt this young girl just kind of cold and alone and frightened, and it was real overwhelming. And it was hard to describe because it wasn't like a vision, it wasn't like a thought, it was a feeling, like I was inside that person, that spirit was with me. So that was really, really neat. And then we returned home at the end of that, and we took good care to leave our smudge bowls and stuff in the sacred fire and make sure we left all that so we weren't taking it home with us. And we returned home and it was fine. Everything was good. I felt good about the work we did. A couple days later at the office, we were doing a check-in, and someone said, "Oh, how are you feeling?" And I thought about it, and I checked in with myself, and I said, "You know what? It kind of feels like I'm an observer of my own life right now. I kind of felt like I had a bird's eye view of myself. I wasn't quite there." And then I thought back to the weekend when we were in ceremony, and I thought, you know what? Maybe I'm still a little bit attached to that world a bit, and I gotta smudge that away, let that go, and like rejoin like this kind of realm. So it was really, really profound for me. I think since then, different things have been happening. So glad to talk with you about it, and I'm glad you're here so that we can talk about these kind of things that, I don't always know how to understand or fathom on my own.
It's a really important time in our history that we acknowledge what we don't always understand when it comes to ceremony and when it comes to having children, especially, cling themselves onto you or bring their spirit to you so that they can find that resolve that maybe they've been lingering for a long time. I think when you get into a ceremony, you start recognizing who you really are and how we've been affected by our history, our past, our families, who's been directly involved with those schools. And I think this is why it's a learning process. Every time we do ceremony, such as, and I would call that a major ceremony, one that we did to help a community heal and help many communities heal, we walk away from that ceremony with a new understanding of who we are and maybe the direction that we're looking for in life to be able to support or heal or work with other people. And when it comes to children, I think it's so important that we guide in a good way and give them a chance to maybe sit on the earth by yourself, reflect on that day and why those spirits came to you for that moment. And then give yourself a chance to ask Creator directly, what do I do next? What do I do with what I've learned? How do I expel the things that are holding me prisoner to the effects of residential school? And then I think we grow spiritually from that moment. So I think everybody grew that day. I think even the participants who didn't speak much knew how important that was, because really when we smudged the whole reserve, we went to each cardinal point and then we carried it all back to the middle. So really we came back to where the school is, and then we had lit the fire there where we put the ashes in together. We all held the ashes and put them in and let them go to Creator. And I think that was the release that we needed to have. There's going to be more that needs to be done, but I think this is the intent of this ceremony, was to help the nation prepare itself for what we are about to find. Or maybe we won't. Maybe we won't find children there, but in highly likely standards, we probably will. And not necessarily just from the residential school, because there was a period in southern Ontario where we were affected by smallpox really strongly. And this was at a different location from the residential schools, but many children died there too. And so those are children who haven't been given that spiritual transmission to the spiritual world. And sometimes we need to do like funerals 100 years later to help these children find that path back to Creator's world. And that's really what was lacking when those children died at the school. Like, especially when they were buried without having ceremony done. And then their spirit hasn't traveled back to that spirit world in the manner that our elders always said. Maybe that little girl is telling you that ceremony needs to be done so that she can have that release of what's been holding her here on this land, before for this long time. So that's how I think about those things. And I think we need to really look at those from a very important perspective. And, and I think it's an honor that that child found its way to you, because maybe she felt that relationship with you. Maybe she was a relative. Maybe there's various reasons, but now I think you need to give her that pathway, to back to Creator's world. And I think that's what we need to do when we find these things happening. That's what I've seen in my lifetime anyway. So I'm really glad you were there and being able to participate in that. I know this is really heavy, as an interview. When you, the listener, hear these stories, you can identify what Indigenous people are now. And the longer we hold these stories back, the less chance you're going to understand why we still have to do ceremony today, and why at an institution you have to understand that. Somebody could ask, why are you talking about that at a radio show? I think the time has come where we can't deny the fact of who we are, and we're spiritual people. We have to continue to find that skill with elders and build that relationship with our spirit world. So thanks for bringing that up, sharing that with us. It's really important that we talk about these things.
Yeah, that's a great point. Doing this work at the university, we do a lot of cultural events and teachings, and there are a lot of non-Indigenous folks who attend, and I often wonder how they perceive it. So I think talking about these kind of things things gives them a little bit more of a realistic feel. I often worry that the things we're showing them kind of allow for us to continue to be tokenized, or, you know, that, oh, there's a sacred Indian over there. He's got his smudge, he's got his pipe. Don't want to perpetuate that kind of thing where they see us as some sort of sideshow or some sort of act. I like the fact that we can interact with the folks here across the university and really make it real and say, this is a guy I know his wife, I know his kids, I know his friends, I know where he works, and look, he also does this, and this is what he's communicating with me. Making those connections, I think, is probably the foundation of reconciliation, in my opinion.
Well, you joined me in the class that we offered this year, and I think, were you at the class when we did a video on, can't remember if you were there for the Real Engine. Were you there for that video?
Yep.
We're getting videos now that are very eye-opening, you know, stories about Indigenous people. And I remember the students that day, you know, they might have seen movies and they've been persuaded to think about Indigenous people through that. And we're trying to change that method. We're not the Indian, you know, on the horse, you know, doing what they thought Indians should do in those days. But it's real. And they've played us so well to make people believe what Indigenous people are. And that movie kind of opened the door to watch the racism that existed for the mainstream media to look at Indigenous people. And we found out in this movie, along with another movie that you might have seen called, it was about Indigenous rock stars, and can't remember what this movie is called, Rumble. We have Indigenous people that's been famous on stage in movies, and you didn't know they're Native. And people say, wow, I didn't know that was a Native person. I think with today's technical abilities, movies that are written by Indigenous people are starting to see how much we are a part of society, you know, still today. And I think those students that walked out of that class that day really felt that they've connected more. And when you came in with your art talking about that, I think, wow, you know, art really has something to do with how people, you know, their spiritual being is invested. So you're an artist too, and you've been able to bring perspectives to people. When you look at art, you don't really know what's in that art unless you talk to the artist sometimes. So I think, you know, in the art that you've provided so far, you know, it really talks very clear about who you are. So you want to tell us about that part of you?
Yeah, that was a great class. It was real nice of Rona and you to invite me to come and speak to the students. I've had a chance to do that a couple times now. You know, that might have been the test run, I think. But I really find that there's a way to communicate what you know through art, and it really holds a lot. There's really a chance to show folks. So I shared with the class a few pictures, and I based a lot of my work off of my journey on the Red Road and Minabamazuin and just my life experiences. So I showed them, like, for me, that's what all those things meant. There's one of the Sweat Lodge ceremony, and that means a lot of things to me. And just showing them the little intricate pieces, like maybe some hair that becomes the roots that go into the earth, and then there's a whole teaching around that. So art can serve as two ways. It can be a way to express your stuff, or it can be a way to teach people. So I really hope there's more time for that around the university, and I've noticed a lot of support for Indigenous art, especially in trying to indigenize the spaces too. So I really look forward to doing more work with that.
That's great. We need to have that more on campus, Indigenous art, and opportunities to grow, such as interviews like this, I think, and it tells people more about who we are as the various Indigenous peoples here. Not just Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, there's Inuit people, there's Métis people, you know, who need to have that platform, and for us to have this opportunity to share now. So I think today's first show went really well. Like we had a great initial interview with you, Kevin, and had some really important conversation. And I really hope that can continue on with the work that we're doing here, and looking forward to September, which is going to be busy. From what I understand, you have a lot of things going on.
Yeah, if I can just put a plug in here before we get going. September 23rd will be 20th annual powwow here. It was formerly run by St. Paul's, which is now United College, and this will be the first year that St. Paul's is collaborating with the Office of Indigenous Relations. Going to move it from the park over to the Columbia Ice Fields. So September 23rd, 10 a.m. till 6 p.m. at the Columbia Ice Fields. We're going to have a real hoppin' powwow. It's going to be something else. So I hope everyone can make it out there. And then on the 29th of September, very important day, we will ask for a recommitment from the president and the university to indigenization through ceremony. We will have a walk to commemorate all our missing little relatives in Truth and Reconciliation Day ceremonies and events There's going to be food, orange shirts, a lot of support. Last year was really good. It felt like we were able to move together and connect rather than grieve so much. And I think this year is going to be real good too. So I hope to see you all September 23rd at the powwow and September 29th for Truth and Reconciliation Day.
Awesome. Looking forward to it. Thanks for coming to join us, Kevin. It was really an honor to have you here, and looking forward to more work with you over the next number of years.
Oh, miigwech.
Miigwech.
Bamapi.
Bamapi Minwa. I just want to say thank you so much for listening to today's show. We had a really good time and conversations go in all kind of directions, but that's how Niche Vibes is. We'll have conversations about various things, and over time we'll be bringing you more information about people that work at the university, outside the university, and what's happening in the Indigenous communities throughout. So join us again next time for Niche Vibes. We'll be happy to have you join us. Miigwech, everybody. Take care.